After the latest coups in Niger and Gabon, following military takeovers in Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, Chad and Sudan, worrying developments as the implementation of the critical Sustainable Development Goals fall by the wayside.
Many countries face deep-seated governance challenges, but military governments are not the solution. They aggravate problems, they cannot resolve a crisis, they can only make it worse. I urge all countries to move quickly to establish credible democratic institutions and the rule of law.
You just returned from the African continent. And
we pressed him on whether the world, Africa in particular, lacked the muscular diplomacy needed to meet the moment, and asked what could be done in the absence of institutional and multilateral reforms that have been so painfully slow in their evolution.
We need to strengthen our capacity to support the different African institutions, the African Union, the different regional organizations in their diplomatic efforts to bring peace, stability and democracy to the African continent. But at the same time, we need to create the conditions to allow the Africans to address the root causes of the problems they face. And the most dramatic of those root causes are in the lack of adequate development. Development is a central objective if we want to create conditions for peace and stability in Africa. And that is the reason why it is so important to advocate for the SDG stimulus. It is so important to advocate for debt relief. It's so important to advocate for the rechanneling of special drawing rights. And it's so important to advocate for reforming our international financial architecture to make it coincide to the power and economic relations of today's world.
Just this month, Guterres will attend the Africa Climate Summit in Kenya, followed by the UN ASEAN Summit in Indonesia, before jetting into India for the G20, ahead of the G77 Plus China meeting in Cuba, before returning to New York to host the annual high-level UN General Assembly.
These summits demonstrate the vitality of our multipolar international community. But multipolarity in itself does not guarantee peace and stability. On the contrary, without strong multilateral institutions, multipolarity could be a factor for escalating geostrategic tensions with tragic consequences. Unless we strengthen and reform our multilateral frameworks, fragmentation is all but inevitable. And with fragmentation, confrontation can come. Multilateral institutions will only survive if they are truly universal.
As he works to reinvigorate efforts at getting the Black Sea Grain Initiative back on track amid growing worries around global food security, with new proposals sent this week to the Russian Federation that withdrew from the agreements in July.
We believe it would be extremely important to renew it, and at the same time we took into concern the Russian requests, and I believe we presented a proposal that could be the basis for a renewal, but a renewal that must be stable. I mean, we cannot have a Black Sea initiative that moves from crisis to crisis, from suspension to suspension. We need to have something that works, and that works to the benefit of everybody.
A globe crying out for robust diplomacy, and a UN chief that finds himself at the cross-currents of a multipolar world that is yet to fully demonstrate its vitality. Sherwin Bryceby's SABC News, New York.